Welcome to What's Next in Emergency Management with Michael Prasad of the Center for Emergency Management Intelligence Research, or CEMIR. This podcast highlights advocacy, research, academics, and more. I'm Christopher, an AI-generated voice used for interludes and breaks. Please note that Michael Prasad is the owner of both the CEMIR and Barton Dunant and may be compensated for referrals and show notes, links, and content in this podcast. CEM is a registered trademark of the International Association of Emergency Managers USA and used with authorization. This episode does not have a special guest. Mike decided to blather on about a new emergency management topic in the United States. Keep listening if you dare.
Here's a reminder of the pediatric feeding concern I've been working on pro bono since 2023. This problem statement started with Jennifer Hope Russell advocating for change in the policies and procedures in the United States for infant and young child feeding in emergencies, or IYCFE. This simple request was a catalyst for specific yet dramatic changes in federal doctrine. FEMA has since revised their individual assistance policy to include the replacement of breastfeeding support items as part of their Serious Needs Assistance, or SNA. And more critically, in terms of the life safety timeframe for unmet needs support, FEMA also changed their public assistance policy and program guide to now include breastfeeding and chest feeding support in their Category B for emergency protective measures. This was a major perceived roadblock for many states in their planning work and opens the door for further support of durable medical equipment, or DME, consumable medical supplies, or CMS, and personal assistance services, or PAS, during the emergency time frame. This effectively recognizes IYCFE as supporting disabilities and access and functional needs, also known as DAFN. The American Red Cross has also put forth a formal policy support document in the National Mass Care Strategy website, but has not yet modified its own internal doctrine or training, moving the support needed from their disaster health services related to post-CMIST identification over to mass care sheltering and fixed feeding initial identification process through their proprietary shelter registration system. Last mile logistics support, including access to lactation counselings as PAS, is also still needed and will vary by states, local governments, territories, and sovereign tribal nations, as well as by the specific disaster impacting a community. All of this emanated from Jenny's work, and I'll include a link for free resources in the show notes.
Mike will be presenting updates to Jenny's Pediatric Feeding Concern Problem Statement at the New Jersey Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster Conference on May 12, 2026 in Somerset, New Jersey. A conference registration link will be in the show notes. Mike, and hopefully Jenny as well, will also be presenting this problem statement update at the United States Breastfeeding Committee's annual conference in Bethesda, Maryland on June 4, 2026. Details are also in the show notes.
And a special shout out to Jennifer Russell, who successfully defended her doctoral dissertation on March 31st, 2026. She is now officially Dr. Jennifer Hope Russell. And I have a publication over at Medium written for emergency managers by certified emergency managers called The Lipper. If you're interested in writing and you're a CEM, please check out the details in the show notes. Compensation-wise, which I think is very important to those of us who make the time and effort to advocate for, research about, and write on emergency management topics, is via Medium's own partner program. You decide whether to paywall your own stories. We publish them in a common platform, and so far I've not seen any other emergency management publications on Medium.
Please check out Matt Green's podcast called State of Disaster. He also has a Substack and a book club for emergency managers. We will include links to all of Matt's social sites in the show notes. And if you are following along where you can't see the show notes, go over to the cemir.substack.com when you get back to your computer, tablet, or smartphone. Of course, please not while you are driving.
As we noted in one of our prior episodes, Substack is now beta testing television access. It's another way to get ears and now eyeballs onto content from Substack. And this feature can include our podcast now if you're a CEMIR subscriber, either free or paid. Check it out and let us know how it works.
Mike wanted me to tell you that we made an audio clip on how to access Substack TV in the last episode, so instead of going over it again, we will just include it in the show notes.
I'm letting the What's Next podcast listeners know that my articles on the hot-button subject of a reboot of civil defense in the United States have become a personal passion of mine. What I've published so far in the Domestic Preparedness Journal, Homeland Security Today, the Emergency Management Network Substack, and at least 2 podcast episodes recorded by others is now just the tip of the iceberg. I'm continuing this work over at the CEMIR Substack. Links to all of those will be in the show notes. I would also recommend folks take a look at Quinn Lucy's 2019 essay over at the Homeland Security's Affairs Journal, which is a great read on those historical elements which created FEMA in 1979 and then absorbed into DHS after 9/11. Our nation's evolving landscape of homeland defense since 9/11 has mostly been focused on terrorism, which are not acts of war last I checked. Presidential Policy Directive No. 8 replaced the preparedness mission with protection and prevention and added specific core capabilities only applicable to the threat of terrorism. I do not believe professional emergency managers were invited to discuss these changes made at the U.S. federal level, but now that a revision is being presented, I'm certainly going to be providing my 2 cents or more. And the question of why we limit what I consider an all-hazards, all-phase core capability of intelligence in the United States to only the before phase still baffles me, so much that it was my capstone thesis for my master's degree. And you will see from my advocacy work that I continue to disagree with the merging of Homeland Security missions such as interdiction, investigation, supply chain integrity and security, and some others with the work of local emergency managers, the work that they do every day. And I've said before and written before, my premise throughout all the articles, podcasts, social posts, etc. that I've done have been clear that I fully support the need for additional core capabilities to be added during wartime on the home front. But I disagree that those capabilities should be performed by emergency managers. And if you look at depth at the proposal for what is being called Civilian Support to Military Operation, or CISMO, you will see that it does not follow NIMS principles at the operational and tactical levels. CISMO is not emergency management. What you will find in CISMO is that there is an explicit higher priority for the defense industrial complex over any other community-based critical infrastructure protection, prevention, response, recovery, and mitigation. That may in fact be the goal of a nation during wartime, but from a transparency perspective, it needs a lot more conversations between levels of government and those partners who will be asked to become part of a new civil defense element. Their, quote, hearts and minds will need to be won over all over again. And speaking of conversations, I just learned that I'll be speaking on this very topic at the second Pracademic Emergency Management and Homeland Security Summit, which is virtual, on May 18th, 2026. It's sponsored by the Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University. Free virtual conference registration links will be in the show notes as well, too.
Mike typed out for me to say that another thing which is next for him in emergency management is that he will be presenting or talking at a few conferences in the next couple of months. This includes the Homeland Defense and Information Analysis Center's 2026 Public Health Tabletop exercise being held virtually from May 4th through May 7th, the New Jersey Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster Conference on May 12, 2026, the second annual Pracademic Emergency Management and Homeland Security Summit he mentioned on May 18, 2026, and the United States Breastfeeding Committee's annual conference on June 4, 2026. Mike will also be at the International Association of Emergency Managers USA Annual National Conference in Long Beach, California from November 6th through the 12th this year. He's not sure what else he is doing there, but he will be at the caucus meetings that he is the board liaison for, as well as leading the Region 2 meeting which is always held live at the conference. All of these events with registration info will be linked to the show notes. This has been What's Next in Emergency Management with Michael Prasad. Mike typed in for me to say the following: please subscribe, like, or whatever it is you do for this podcast. Thank you for listening. This is the end of the audio portion of this podcast. There is a bit more music while the video credits roll.